Someday soon, a camera company is going to make an advanced consumer camera that's weatherproof, has a good resolution sensor over 16 megapixels, and has a built-in zoom lens with an amazing 50x optical zoom range. Well, someday is today, and the camera is the Fujifilm FinePix S1. Hi, I'm Larry Becker. The Fujifilm folks have designed their new FinePix S1 as a bridge camera, and it certainly bridges the gap between point-and-shoot cameras and DSLR-style bodies. The specs, features, and performance are amazing, as you'll see in a minute. Just about everything with this camera is better than I expected, with the exception of the image sensor itself. Considering it's a 1/2.3-inch size, it's what I would call a good point-and-shoot image sensor. So, if you're used to pictures from most any point-and-shoot, the S1 images will be similar to that. And since it's a 16.4 megapixel sensor, you do collect more image data than lots of point-and-shoots do. But if you're used to APS-C size sensors or a full-frame camera sensor, you'll just want to dial back your image quality expectations a little bit. So, let me tell you about the amazing zoom lens. It's a 50x optical zoom lens, which is a 35mm equivalent to having a 24mm to 1200mm f2.8 to 5.6 zoom lens. And when some people hear that, they think a 50x optical zoom must be nothing but good. After all, when you can capture a wide vista like this, or zoom all the way in to just part of the scene and see something this close. Now that's a lot of versatility from a single lens, but pros know that there are downsides to that kind of zoom too. For example, it's hard to handhold a 1200mm equivalent zoom still enough to get sharp pictures. Once you zoom in that much, the slightest movement of your subject can cause them to disappear from the frame, and then it's hard to find your subject again to reframe. And since there's such a tremendous zoom range, do you want your zoom to happen slowly for accuracy and smoothness, like when you're filming? Or do you want to zoom fast to get the shot as quickly as possible? Well, the great news is that Fujifilm engineers have answers for each of these challenges. The S1 has 5-axis image stabilization, and in good light, that was more than adequate to stabilize my images at the full 50x zoom. And for framing, the S1 has a special zoom out button here on the side of the lens that temporarily zooms out just a bit so that you can reframe, and then when you let go, it snaps back to the zoomed in view. And the zoom can be fast or reprogrammed to a slower speed. There's also a separate zoom control around the shutter button, so the lens-based zoom can go slow and the shutter zoom can be fast. One last thing that really amazes me about this lens is that in super macro mode, it can focus on the subject around 1 centimeter from the face of the lens, and you can capture incredible detail. With the lens set to the wide end, I literally rested the bottom of the lens face on a pad of paper on my desk and snapped a picture of my notepad and handwritten notes. The image detail and magnification was so good that smooth white paper looked like a terry cloth towel, and the fine ballpoint pen writing looked like giant paintbrush strokes. The blue line paper even looked like big fuzzy chalk lines. The weatherproof and dust-sealed body is the shape of a nice DSLR rig. The grip is a good shape, and the rubber is appropriately textured and it's grippy. The twist flip LCD is quite good, with 920,000 dots of resolution, and the electronic viewfinder, or EVF, while good and equally high res, is kind of small and a little bit contrasty. Nevertheless, it's much better than I expected for a camera in this class. I like the placement of all the buttons and dials with the exception of the power button and the button that toggles between the LCD and the EVF. I probably don't like the on-off button placement just because it's not what I'm used to, but I think I could get used to it in time. And since there's no sensor to automatically swap between the EVF and the LCD, there's a button that you need to press. I just wish it was more easily reachable while holding the camera to your eye, because when you put the camera to your eye and you don't see an image, it would be nice to just press something that you could easily feel and reach with your thumb. Instead, you have to take the camera away from your eye for a second to see the button in order to press it. There are lots of Pro controls, along with buttons and dials to access different functions. So, Fujifilm isn't going for the sleek minimalist look that makes you go to menus for everything. Direct controls include an exposure compensation button, a control dial for aperture and shutter speed settings, a dedicated video record button, a shooting mode dial with manual shooting modes like programmed auto, shutter priority, aperture priority, and full manual, and even a user programmable position. There's a dedicated burst mode button, and there's also a programmable FN or function button. Of course, there are other controls and functions that are intended for beginners and hobbyists. On the mode dial, there's an auto mode that you use when you just want to point and shoot. There's a scene recognition mode that's automatic, but it looks at the scene and it optimizes settings for the kind of scene it thinks your subject is in. SP is scene position, and that lets you tell the camera about the specific scene. There's an automated panorama mode that can be set to shoot 360 degrees, or less if you don't need a full circle. And the ADV position is what they call an advanced mode, with all kinds of special effects filters and setups for special circumstances like Pro Low Light or HDR, among others. The S1 can capture RAW and JPEG images, but because the camera is so new, I wasn't able to access the RAW files with the current version of Photoshop's Camera Raw software. So my review here is based on the JPEG images. The ISO range is 100 to 12,800. The built-in pop-up flash is TTL, meaning it can meter light through the lens. And there's a hot shoe so that you can add an even more powerful optional flash unit if you like. The battery is rated for about 350 shots per charge, and since the camera itself is your charger, using the provided USB cable of course, you might also consider picking up an optional charger. The video on this camera is nice, and the audio it captures with the built-in stereo mics is just fine. There are a couple of options for super high speed capture for slow motion video playback, and my favorite video feature is that you can snap still pictures while you're filming. Now, in many other cameras I've used that have the ability to shoot stills during filming, you can usually hear shutter noise and see dropped frames or frozen frames or even an image blackout on the video when you play it back. I did a sample video here in the office and snapped stills during the video shoot, and when I played back the movie, there was no evidence at all that I had been shooting stills during filming. Besides weatherproofing, another feature I wouldn't really expect at this price point is built-in Wi-Fi. Not only can you transfer files and browse images on your camera from a smart device, the free Fujifilm Camera Remote app allows focus and zoom and remote control shooting. Just a couple quick notes about Wi-Fi. There are several free Fujifilm apps, and they're similar, but not all are compatible with this camera. So if you try one and it doesn't work, try downloading one of the other apps. The other thing is that I couldn't find a standalone focus function in the app, so things might seem a little blurry until you snap the shutter. Focus and shutter snap are a single function. So, if you're good with the quality you get from your point and shoot, but you're ready for incredible control, versatility, weatherproofing, and pro features at an entry-level price point, check out the Fujifilm FinePix S1. For B&H and Kelby One, I'm Larry Becker. Thanks for watching.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.
Scott Kelby here, and welcome to this quick tour of our online training. We have hundreds of online classes for you, covering everything from lighting to landscape photography. From portrait photography to sports, we have classes on wedding, automotive photography, shooting, food, fashion, travel, you name it. The most incredible part of this is the price. You get all of this for just $199 a year, or you can pay monthly for just $24.95. 24 hour a day, 7 day a week access from anywhere in the world. I invite you to join with us today and start learning right now.